And now that blogs and social media are very much a part of our lives, what has it done to communication around food?
All this to say that I've been in the world of food blogs and an observing a user of social media for the past 8 years now, and I have been very interested in seeing the evolution of blogs and social media in relation to communication, to the communication that is done around the subject of food. It seems to me that it's very. I'm kind of taken aback when I realize what a recent development it is. When you think about the fact that when I started my blog in 2003, when I told people that I had a blog, they kind of looked at me, and people have gotten used to the term blog, which I still find horribly clunky, but still people are used to it now, so they don't look at me in a weird way. A great many people use some social media or another, be it Facebook, be it Twitter. They share pictures on Flickr. They might share links on Delicious. They might have a little Stumble Upon account. You know, there are very many ways. They might have an account on Yelp or use or read reviews on that website on which you can review businesses in general and restaurants and food shops in particular. So it feels like this has entered our collective lives over the past maybe 6 or 7 years. Food blogs really exploded as a phenomenon in 2004, 2005, Facebook and Twitter in 2008. So it feels really amazing to think the importance that those tools have gained in just a few short years. It's impossible to say how many food blogs there are out there, but I was recently told that it's assumed that it might be in the tens of thousands, which is still a very vague figure, I agree, but it's hard to count them because a lot of them are dormant or are kind of ghost blogs that have been abandoned for months or years and might be picked up again next week, so you never really know. So this is a recent development, but it has done a lot to change the way we communicate around and about food. And I don't think that it's too strong a word to use when I talk about a revolution, because I really feel that it has completely turned the world of food and communication around food on its head. Before the advent of blogs and social media, communication around food was very much a top-down and a one-to-many kind of communication. You would read books, you would read magazines, you would watch television shows, you would buy guidebooks. And those were all produced by a small number of people who were seen as the experts and who were the authority on the subject. So as a regular person, you would be in your own living room receiving information from above, it seems. So that was one kind of communication. And the other, which was very different, was a many-to-many kind type of communication, which was just communication in the small circle of your friends, your family, your community. You might belong to a book club in which everyone brings a dish, or potlucks, and then people would discuss the foods that everyone had brought. Or someone might say, I tried that new Italian restaurant, in the next town. It's really good, or it's really bad. And you would communicate. You would talk about food with people who were your peers in a way. They might be more experienced than you were, or better traveled, or better read. But in general, they were people who were just like you. Since the revolution, this has all been turned on its head. We are now offered a very, very wide variety of sources when we want to find information about food, whether it's recipes, whether it's information about an ingredient, whether it's cultural information about a dish, whether it's restaurant reviews or information about a chef. There are very many kinds of sources that you can tap for information. And that information may be produced by the same small group of people that used to broadcast information before, still journalists, writers, authors, guidebook authors, chefs on television. That's still very much a part of the scenery. But now you have a whole lot of people who are just like you, who may be just a mile away or may live on the other side of the planet from you, but who are also giving their point of view on food, sharing their ideas and their own background and their own experience with food, which means that it's the information that you can get is a lot more varied and different, because you then have access to very specialized points of view from just this single person who lives in the single village, somewhere in France, where there's this very specific tradition that's held yearly, from the Brotherhood of the people who love snails, and who will give you an account of what that tradition is like, and what meal is held every year to celebrate, the snail and the parsley butter. And there is no way that this and the very many other accounts that you could get about similar subjects could be covered efficiently by just a team of journalists, however well traveled and however large their budget might be. Another important thing that has happened is that all of a sudden conversation flows both ways. It used to be that you could write to a magazine, you could send a letter to a cookbook author, care of their publisher, but there was always the sense that you were isolated and just a single unimportant person, sending a message in a bottle, and you never really knew, unless your letter was published, but you never really knew that there was someone else on the other side reading what you were writing, and it was always something that was intimidating because you felt like you were contacting kind of a higher authority. And it feels like that distance has really shortened with the use of social media and the blogs that are usually incorporated on the websites of magazines nowadays. A lot of cookbook authors have now set up their own blogs and welcome comment and feedback. And so all of a sudden, as an individual, you are no longer made to feel like you should be just a consumer of information, but you can interact with those who produce that information and who offer that content. And this, to me at least, has felt, I've really seen the difference over the past 8 years, because when I started out, I felt rather in awe of, all those people who were actually paid to write about food. And it's not so much the fact that I've now gone over to the other side, but rather the fact that it really feels like even those who have been doing this for a great many years, it looks like they're actually relieved that there is now a conversation going on, and that they can just be among other interested cooks, and especially when it comes to food, because those professionals, anyone who works with or around food, anyone that I've ever met at least, shares that common desire to share, that generosity. At the end of the day, it's about sitting down at the dinner table and sharing a good meal and good stories about that meal and other things. So I feel that this really translates well in the conversation that is fostered by social media and the fact that magazines and cookbook authors are now welcoming that feedback from readers. Another consequence, obviously, is that anyone can now add their voice to the chorus. I find that it's a great thing, because I was just reading this quote when I came in, and I saw that it was saying, "We read to know we are not alone," and I would, with all due respect, alter this and say we also write to know that we're not alone, and we write blogs to know that we're not alone, because it. My experience with blogs has been, and with social media in general, I'm a big user of Twitter, for instance, is that whatever it is that you're passionate about, writing about it on the internet means that you will find your people. You will find people who are as crazy as you are about, just whatever it is that you're interested in. If it's charcuterie because you're obsessed with, making the perfect sausage, or if it's growing quirky vegetables, you will find people who collect seeds from, special places. And if there's one thing that the internet has done for humankind, if I may say this, I think it's allowing us to connect a lot in a much easier way than we ever could before. And I'm certainly a good example of someone whose life has been changed by the internet in general, and that easier way to connect with like-minded people. So that's the good part. I find that it's, there are never enough stories out there, and it's good that anyone can have his own platform on which to share his or her own stories. There is, of course, another side to this, is that because anyone can add his voice to the chorus, some of those voices are not the kind that you want to hear. They might be not very well informed. They might be rude. They might just be dull. But then again, it's up to you to choose who you listen to. And it's true that sometimes you will, those voices will appear, especially on review websites. We were talking about Yelp earlier, and it's true that, and I mentioned this because I know that some of you are involved in the restaurant business, and I know that all of a sudden the fact that anyone can have a blog on which they talk about your restaurant and your food, and maybe not in the kindest of terms, that's become something new that restaurant owners have to contend with. So it's just something that's just the other side of the same coin, and it is something that you have to deal with.